Many busy men struggle to get below 20% body fat and see their abs despite training and dieting very hard. But with just 3 simple steps that you can slot into your busy schedule every week, you can lose the belly and maintain a lean physique. These steps helped me place second in multiple bodybuilding competitions, and they also get my clients' bodies lean too, without clashing with their work or lifestyle schedule. So here's your first step. When most men want to start losing body fat, the first thing they focus on is some form of strict diet. And they can initially lose body fat quickly doing almost any diet. And that initial weight comes off quickly because it's a combination of eating less food. So there's less food coming in the body, therefore the weight drops quickly. It could also be losing what we call fluid retention or water retention. As well as eating bad food to eating clean food, there's less inflammation in the body. However, many guys get stuck after the initial weight loss. The scale stalls, they're not seeing any more muscle definition, and the belly isn't budging. And I'm going to show you why this happens. So after we drop somewhere between 10 to 20 pounds or kilos, the body starts to adapt. Meaning because we weigh a bit less, our body doesn't have to work as hard as it had to before to go about our daily functions. It's just easier for the body to survive when it weighs a bit less. And of course, when you factor in more fitness and more training, fitness improves, therefore it's easier for the body to do what it normally does without exerting as much effort. For example, someone who is overweight is going to burn more energy going for a walk versus someone who is leaner, just because they're fitter and there's less weight to carry around. And as a result of this, there is a slight decline in our BMR, which stands for basal metabolic rate. It's like our baseline of metabolism, kind of like our idle state. If you were to turn on the car and just leave it sitting there but not drive anywhere, the engine's on, but you're not burning extra fuel, it's just steadily chipping away. That's kind of like our BMR. If we were to lay on the ground all day, we would be burning energy, but not above that BMR baseline. However, after we drop chunks of weight, the BMR can decline by somewhere between 40 to even 100 calories off the BMR naturally, because we're just not carrying as much body fat. It depends on how much we lose, and it's a little bit tricky to track. I'm going to show you more on this in a later step in this video. But this is when the grind begins. That initial that weight is gone, and now we have to basically force the body to burn off the body fat that's stored around our subcutaneous fat, our limbs, our face, our neck, legs, all around the waist, the chest, and the upper back, and of course the visceral fat that is kind of riddled throughout our vital organs. That's the bad kind that we want to get rid of. But it happens slower than what most people wish it would happen at, because losing body fat is a process. And this is why I tell all my clients that a pace of 1 to 2 pounds per week drop, or half a kilo to a kilo drop on the scale per week is fantastic. It's a maintainable pace. It doesn't require any extreme dieting or extreme levels of cardio every single day, and it fits in nicely with schedules that can be unpredictable and adaptable to travel and change and family and kids and business and meetings and you name it. So the solution is not to starve yourself. Please don't do that unless you're deliberately doing a fasting protocol, which is like controlled starvation, if you want to put it that way. Technically, it is a form of starvation, but you're not starving because there is still energy in the body, and the body is just going to be it's going to be switching into eventually ketosis if you fast for long enough to then chip away at more body fat once all the glycogen in the muscles has been burnt up. Anyway, that's a topic for another video. Back on course here, but I just want to point out that it's not always the diet's fault when the scale stalls and we stop losing body fat. But if we only focus and fixate on the diet, we think that that is always the problem when it might not be. So here's what you need to focus on instead. So while you track your food accurately and monitor your weekly average trends, you also want to track what I call the burn zone. I don't see a lot of people talk about this because unless you track it yourself, there isn't a clear way to get an accurate data point. But this is something I do in my programs, and it makes a huge difference once clients can see what their burn zone actually is. So let me explain this. It's the difference between the calories that you eat and the calories that you burn. This obviously means you have to track both of these numbers to figure out the difference, of course. So for example, if you're eating 1800 calories and you're burning 2600 calories and you're losing approximately 1 pound per week or 0.5 kilos. Just keep that in mind for a second. Then you know your burn zone gap is 800 difference between your burn and what you're eating. Okay, this is very important. So if the scale inevitably stalls, I'll show you how you can fix that in a second, right? So imagine that you're tracking your weight every day and you're measuring your weekly averages, which are these blue lines here, which is basically your average weekly score, and it's trending down, 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 and this is all happening with a burn zone of 800 that we just talked about. Now, what happens when things start to stall? Well, so let's say you've been gradually dropping body fat, and then boom, it's just stuck in a range, and it's just oscillating, either 1 to 2 pounds up or 1 to 2 pounds down. This is a very normal thing to happen. But what do you do here, right? This is where most people get stuck and they give up and they lose motivation. They think it's not working. I've blown it. And then they have one bad day. They miss a workout. They beat themselves up. They skip the gym, and it's all downhill. They're falling off the wagon again. But I want to keep you on the wagon. That's why I'm showing you this. So what happens here is you need to understand that, yes, you might be eating 1,800 calories, right? But remember how I said when you've dropped 10, 20 to 30 pounds, the BMR is going to slowly decline over time. So instead of always putting more pressure on the diet, we want to increase your burn zone. And how you can do that is by simply increasing more burn on top of your daily burn zone. So you can bump this up to 2,800. And what that's going to do is it's going to increase your burn zone to 1,000. Sorry if this is messy, but if you've been following along, this should be making sense. So if you stop and think about this, this is actually really crucial to your long-term success when you want to shed the body fat and keep it off. Because let's say you have an event on, a birthday, Christmas party, New Year's Eve, whatever it is, and you know there's going to be more food and you eat more food, and that takes you out of a fat loss state in your body. That could put you into a maintenance zone, stuck in that range for days, potentially up to a week, depending on how far over the surplus that you're in from eating more food. This is why if you want to lose the belly fat and get down to that 11 to 15% body fat range, which looks like this, it is essential that you burn more calories than what you eat and you maintain that burn zone. So if you were to eat 2,200 calories, then you know, oh, okay, well, my burn zone is 1,000. I have to burn 3,200 calories. If you don't burn 3,200 calories, you now know there's this surplus that's going to carry over to the next day and the next day until you bring yourself back into a deficit. Some people don't want to believe that this works, but I promise you, once I got this system down pat, this is what enabled me to compete in bodybuilding. This is what enabled my program to work for hundreds of men all around the world, online and in person, because it works no matter what diet you do. However, losing more fat can harm you long term if you skip step 2 that I'm about to explain. If you're anything like me or the men in my program, you probably don't love doing huge sessions of cardio. If you do, that's okay, but let's assume most people don't, because they always tell me, I hate doing cardio. I'm not a huge fan either. Anyway, I see a lot of men doing a lot of cardio, yet not seeing the physical results that they want or any long-lasting results, because they can go hard for a short period of time, but at the same time, they're losing muscle mass without even realizing, because they're doing a lot of cardio whilst starving themselves on some crazy strict diet that somebody told them to do, or that they saw on Instagram or Google or some magazine, whatever it is. They're going really hard in cardio and eating way too little, muscles declining, as well as body fat's declining quickly. So even though cardio is good to burn a chunk of calories within a short period of time, as soon as you stop doing cardio, the body is back into an idle state, your BMR state. Yet if you do this for a long term, you're going to be only doing cardio to burn energy, and then you're going to be in an idle state with less muscle, which means your BMR will decline faster than it should if you were to have more muscle. And this is why guys get stuck in the skinny fat shape that looks like this. Basically, lost a lot of weight, but there's still a bunch of body fat hanging around that belly area, particularly the hips and the lower belly and maybe the lower chest, that feels almost impossible to get rid of. And almost every time I see this, it's because these guys have gone way too hard on cardio, way too strict on dieting, and at the cost lost a lot of muscle, and therefore they can't burn off that last bit of body fat. And even if they did, they would just look very skinny and bony because there's no shape there from the muscle bellies around their physique. But I'm not saying all this to say that you should be smashing yourself and annihilating your body in the gym 5 days a week. That's not my point. However, every guy that I coach in my program must be doing at least 2 or 3 workouts a week. They don't have to do any more than that, because 3 is the optimal amount, particularly with busy schedules, to stimulate the body 2 to 3 times a week and make gradual progress in a safe progression curve over time. I like to think about building muscle kind of like watering a plant. You don't flood the plant with a bucket of water every hour and expect it just to shoot up out of the ground. It requires small, consistent, light doses of stimulation or water throughout the days and throughout the week to keep that plant or that flower flourishing for the long term. If you go too hard on it, you're going to drown the plant, probably kill it. I don't know. I'm not a florist. And so training your body, training all your muscles 2 to 3 times a week kind of works in the same way. It gives your body the right amount of dosage to get stronger and build more muscle without overdoing it, without feeling so sore that you can't even lift your hands up to wash your hair in the shower or walk up a flight of stairs without having to pull yourself up on the handrail because your legs feel like they're going to give way. Everyone knows what it feels like to go to the bathroom after leg day because their legs are so sore and shaking, crippling. That's overkill. You don't need to be feeling that sore after every session. So here is what you need to do every week if you want to get results. So whether it's at a home or a gym or even on a plane like I did here, at minimum, get 2 workouts a week in. 3 is optimal because then you are stimulating muscle and strength more consistently without needing to go balls to the wall and killing yourself in the gym every day. You can stick to compound movements like squats, bench press, overhead press, rows, and pull downs to keep it time efficient and simple. I don't recommend blowing a lot of time on isolation. Aside from that, 3 days is highly flexible. So you could do Monday, Wednesday, Friday. You could do Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. You could have 2 days break, 1 day break. I would not recommend doing 2 days in a row hitting the same muscle groups though, because if you hit the same muscle group 2 days in a row, it hasn't had enough time to recover. So not only is your training going to be suboptimal, but you haven't even recovered from the last session. So it makes more sense to have at least 48 hours between sessions. And then you can take the weekend off, hit it fresh on Monday, whatever works. Very flexible. And here's the most important part I need to show you. So no matter what exercise you do every week, there needs to be a form of progression and you need to be tracking it. So let's assume you're doing barbell squats. And in week 1, you do 12 reps for 20 pounds or 20 kilos, whatever it is. Then the next week, you might do 10 reps for 25 pounds. Then week 3, you might do 8 for 30 pounds. And then in week 4, you'll finish for 6 reps on 35 pounds. So you can see that the weight is going up each week whilst the reps are declining. And this would be called a microcycle. This is something that I customize in my workout programs for my clients and is also factored into my business body blueprint routine, which I'll talk about more later in this video. So this is really important that you track everything that you do because it's these small improvements that are going to add up over time and add more muscle to whatever muscle groups that you're actually training. And then the more you do, the better you get, the stronger you get, the more your technique improves because you've spent more reps doing it. And then ultimately, you're only like 2,000 to 4,000 reps away from completely changing your body shape. But it takes a lot of time to get through those reps, so you got to be patient. But even if you do 3 sessions a week, that won't get you results unless you avoid what most men do when they go to the gym. Guys who just turn up, look around, see what machine is free, they go to that one, or they sit around and wait for the most popular machine to finally have a gap so they can rush over there and grab it, or they just do whatever they feel like, some old plan that they did 10 years ago, or they just kind of copy who else or whatever their training buddy is doing. There's no clear progressive plan that they're following. And it's pretty easy to tell because you can just look around the gym, and you go to the gym long enough, you start to see who's actually progressing in the gym, and most people are not. This is why you must progress in every workout you do, just like I showed you in that chart with the week-to-week progressions. That means every week when you do your workouts, you track the exercises, you track the weights, you track the sets, you track the reps that you do. This way, you can't lie to yourself, you can't slack off, and you know exactly when you have progressed because you can see it in the data, and you'll also feel it in your body as well. And bear in mind, the sessions that you don't want to do are often the best sessions. Ask anyone who is fit and lean and jacked. They will tell you it's always the workouts they don't want to do, which leads to results, which is the best session they had, which feels the best. So sometimes we have to embrace the suck and just get it done. So ultimately, you can have the perfect diet, you can have the best training program, but eventually, like every man who's got 20, 30, 40 more pounds to lose, you're probably going to hit a plateau. So in step 3, I'm going to show you what you need to do to break out of those plateaus, keep going so that you can finally get to that 15 to 11% body fat range that most men won't reach if they don't do what I'm about to show you. The reason most men get stuck in a plateau is because it's totally normal. Like I explained in step 1, the body adapts and changes. So ultimately, what gets you from point A to point B isn't guaranteed to get you to point C and D and E and the whole alphabet, whatever. Optimizations are required. This happens in business, it happens in life, it happens in sports, it happens in education, learning an instrument, speaking a language. What gets us started doesn't always get us to the finish line. And obviously, we're not robots yet. Who knows how that's going to go. But the trick is to know what to do when the body has adapted and it's resisting your plan, meaning you're not dropping more body fat and you're not gaining more muscle. You need to know what to change and what to do. And I'm going to explain that in this step. The problem is that most guys rely on guessing, feeling, emotions, and subjective perceptions. They think, well, that was a good workout and I was sweating a lot, so it must have been good. But this workout, I wasn't sweating. That means it's not good. Or I ate really healthy on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I was good, so I can be bad. No, there is no good or bad. There's the facts, which is you're on track or you're off track. And this is going to explain it, exactly what you need to do to fix that. Here's what I mean. For example, it's kind of like how I recently hired a Facebook ads mentor to help me with my ads. I mean, I'm still quite new to it and I just did not know exactly what was working and what wasn't working. It was all quite confusing. I thought my ads were complete trash. But the expert I hired got all the data and specifically showed me what was working, what was, kind of so-so, moderately good, and what was causing the bottlenecks and the problems. And once he diagnosed that issue, it was like, fix this, and we saw a change and we saw some progress. But I couldn't see that myself because I didn't know how to read the data, even though I had the data. So the first step is you got to get the data. And here's what I want you to do every week to start getting leaner. So bear in mind, this only should take you 5 minutes per day. Otherwise, you're probably wasting time and overthinking it. The first thing I want you to do is track your nutrition. My favorite app is MyFitnessPal. They have a big library and it's very easy to use and it's free. You don't even need the paid version. I've never used it. The second thing I want you to do is to track your calorie burn and your steps and your sleep. Because if you do that, you're going to know what your burn zone is after a number of weeks when you compare it to the food that you're eating. Then I want you to track your body weight every single day. Because if you do that, you're going to start to see a consistent trend and understand what is affecting the spikes and what is affecting the troughs, and are you in a decline, a plateau, or an incline. Then I want you to track your workouts, every workout you do. This is the app that I use with my clients. We track everything from the exercises, the weights, the reps, the sets, and the progression week to week every 4 weeks. And the final thing, to keep it really simple here, is I want you to track the mirror. I want you to just pay attention, look in the mirror and see, hey, how am I changing? Where am I getting leaner? What changes am I noticing? Make sure to take photos. You don't have to take photos every week, but just keep an objective eye in the mirror to see what is changing without expecting super fast results or beating yourself up if you don't look ripped in 2 days. And when you do this, when you start using a fitness tracker, you start using a scale, you start tracking your food, start tracking your workouts, you're going to be able to read your body like a book. You're going to learn so much about your unique patterns in your health and fitness. You'll learn what foods work best for you, what ones set you back and cause bloating, water retention, inflammation, or anything else that gets in the way. You're going to see where your strengths are in the gym, where your weaknesses are, and what even might be causing you to have good sleep or bad sleep. And then you can optimize all these things one by one over time. And then when you get stuck in a plateau, you'll be able to quickly diagnose what is the bottleneck. Is it my diet? Is it I've been too far out of my burn zone for too many days? Did I think I was burning a lot of steps, but it turns out my calorie burn wasn't as high? Was I misjudging the food that I ate, and I thought I was only having 200 calories when I'm really having 350? I forgot to weigh this or that. Like, you can start to understand the devil is in the details. That sounds negative, the devil, but it's actually a good thing. The details is a little fine tuning and the little adjustments that have the big impact over long term. Kind of like an aeroplane, 1 degree off course could land you in a different country. One little change in your nutrition and your training can send you in a completely more progressive trajectory in your physique, in your body fat levels over the longer term. There's so much more that you can focus on, and I go a lot deeper in my program, but this is the basics that everyone has to do every single week if they want to get and stay lean. This is why I don't coach any man who doesn't value data and who won't take 5 minutes a day to track their damn data, because it's just a waste of time without it. Like trying to run a business without looking at your financials, looking at your sales and marketing, you're just going to be guessing and using people's subjective emotions and opinions to make decisions, which could crush the entire business. So why take the chance in your own physical body and health? I wouldn't, and neither do my clients, and this is why they get results. This is why I've stayed lean for the last 10 years straight after finishing up bodybuilding. In fact, one of my clients, David, he initially dropped like about 30-ish pounds on his own, just going to the gym and dieting correctly. You know, he went and saw his doctor who said, look, you're pretty much, 1 or 2 steps away from diabetes. He's in his 50s. He came home and said to his wife, look, I'm not this guy. I used to be an athlete in my 20s. Like, this is not me. He made changes. He dropped the initial 30, but he couldn't get past it. He was stuck in this plateau because he was just doing a typical kind of gym routine 5 days a week, eating super clean, but he couldn't figure out what was happening. There was no biofeedback data. He wasn't tracking his food, wasn't tracking his protein, wasn't tracking his steps, his calorie burn, his workouts, every workout he was doing, his progression, his recovery, nothing. When we started doing that, I completely customized his program and gave him specific targets every single week. And then that came down, his weight dropped by another 10 pounds, another 10 pounds, another 10 pounds. And as you can see, the difference here, he's gone from looking still, somewhat dad bod-ish, but relatively okay in his 50s, to having a 6-pack in his 50s, to the point where his son and his son's friends want to train with him in the gym because they see him as a role model. And the truth is, almost every man that I've coached has already done a bunch of diets. They've had trainers for years. They've done different classes, CrossFit, F45, 75 hard, anything with the word hard in it, they've done it. Ozempic, Mounjaro. I've even had clients who have done rounds of testosterone therapy and been not bodybuilders, but like athletes and Ironmans and marathoners in the past. And yet they still come to me because they just can't figure out that once they get around that 20% body fat or even below, how to keep going and how to stay there. And it's all down to the fine-tuning and the details in the data that I've just explained here with these 3 steps. And that's why my entire method is personalized to fit their schedule and their lifestyle, because if it's not sustainable week after week, they're not going to be doing the work, they're not going to be tracking the data, and the results won't come anyway. So it has to fit within your lifestyle. That's like the number one precursor for adherence. It's got to be doable for you. And the data sits on top, and that's what is like your GPS system. So if you're looking to shed more fat even in the next week, but you don't have a structured program that you can implement, one that fits in your schedule, that you know for sure you can do and progress with, that won't leave you starved, missing out on family dinners or business lunches or client drinks, whatever it is that you like to enjoy, ice cream with little Timmy, cookies with Sarah, and wines with the wife, whatever it is, if you still want to have that flexibility and be shedding more fat, well, I can show you how to do that step by step inside of my business body blueprint routine. This is what all my clients follow to shed inches off their belly month after month without overhauling their entire life, even while running a company or working 50, 60 hours in a high performing job, traveling all around the country. All I ask is 2 to 3 workouts a week and as little as 30 minutes each. Not a huge commitment for a massive return. It's all covered in the business body blueprint routine. The link is right below this video. You can see it in the description. Go there, check it out, learn more, and I would love to see you on the page to explain how it all works. I'll see you there.